So I watched the last presidential debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden on NBC Live, and I felt that Mr. Trump was kind of losing his tone of the, you know, really strong macho man. I mean, he seems to be rather complaining about the status quo, and given the fact that in the polls and in the fundraising race, uh, apparently Mr. Biden has an edge over Mr. Trump, and that fact probably made Mr. Trump sound like a underdog, making complaints to the victor to be. That was my impression at the beginning. But then Mr. Trump became his usual self, and he started to respond really strongly to Mr. Biden. So in all, I felt that the debate was a 50-50, a draw. For me, one of the most interesting part of the debate was North Korea. As Mr. Trump pointed out, it is true that at the end of the Obama administration, the relationship between the U.S. and North Korea was really bad, and many people fear that war was imminent. And then Mr. Trump took care of that situation, and it is true that the relationship between the two nations improved. Having said that, it is also true that, as Mr. Biden said, that North Korean nuclear crisis is far from over. And as Mr. Biden said, it would be great if we could have the Korean Peninsula as a nuclear-free area. That would be great. But strategically speaking, from the point of view of game theory, it is kind of difficult to conceive of a strategy where you would be able to successfully, take the nuclear weapons out of the North Korean hand. And so it's a really conundrum, but this debate between Mr. Trump and Mr. Biden was worth listening. And there was this debate about energy, clean energy, and apparently Mr. Biden is for clean energy, and Mr. Trump is deeply, dipped in the oil industry, as I understand it. And so it was interesting. Mr. Biden made statements endorsing clean energy, and Mr. Trump tried to take advantage of that statement, saying that, "Hey, remember these remarks from Joe? Ravishing the oil industry," and but that attitude of Mr. Trump also sounded like a complaint from the underdog. Because so I felt that overall, Mr. Biden played well. I mean, he had this relaxed attitude, and he didn't seem so old. Actually, his kind of mischievous laughter from time to time, and I think were very effective. And also the fact that Mr. Biden continued to refer to Mr. Trump as he did that. Treatment of Mr. Trump was very effective in that it kind of outstripped all these social glamour, if you like, from Mr. Trump's personality. All this apprentice, Trump Tower, private jet, all these, fanciful facade of Mr. Trump, which probably have appealed a lot of voters in the last election, were outstripped, and they appeared a man who is probably not certain of himself in terms of financial or political, outlooks, and this outstripping of the glamour of Mr. Trump was probably one of the most successful maneuvers of from Mr. Biden in this evening. Actually, it's morning in Japan, but this evening in the United States. So it was an interesting debate, and these two gentlemen did not behave like mischievous kids at this time because of the setup where you have 2 minutes to state your case without the the other, interrupting. The microphone was off actually. Yeah, I think I saw Mr. Trump as his true self for the first time, maybe for many years this evening, and that was probably the greatest success on the part of Mr. Biden. But I'm sure people would have many different opinions, and that's my impression.